I'm hammering the coffee today. Why reform? Why now? Hello and welcome to the SP show. We are off. We're ready to go. We're going to talk about reform this morning. We're also going to talk about immigration. We're going to talk about how badly the economy is going and how we're all going to die. There was an opinion poll this week, and top of the opinion polls was reform. Yes, national poll, reform number one. So the first thing we're going to get to is why reform? Why now? If we're going to talk about reform, it seems only right that we go with the reform hat. Why are reform doing so well? We should start off by talking about how easy it is to do well at this very specific time in the story. The Conservatives were in power for 14 years. By the end, things were going not very well. Parties across the world who had been in power during the pandemic became very unpopular, partly because of the measures that were taken during the pandemic and partly because of all the money that had to be spent during the pandemic meant that finances were tough afterwards. So the Conservatives who have been voted out are unpopular. The new government that's come in has got some pretty big issues too, and so they become unpopular. So we have a two-party politics system, but if both those parties are unpopular, enter another party. And it's really easy to be that third party because you haven't got a record to defend. You haven't got to say, oh, well, we did well on this. You weren't in power. You haven't got current measurements to be held to account over because you're not in power. You get to say and do pretty much whatever you like, which is quite easy. Like, let's take the NHS, for example. Nigel Farage, a lot more of him in a minute. Nigel Farage said in a BBC debate that the French system was way better than our system. So you might think that reform would like to adopt the French system. That's not a crazy thing to think, given what he was saying. But Zia Youssef, the party treasurer, was on the telly and he was saying, oh no, we don't support the French system. We don't want the French system. Nigel Farage was just suggesting it was quite a good system, but not endorsing it and not saying we need it. If he was in power, he would have to actually do something on the NHS. What would he actually do? It's hard to tell. Because he's not in power, he gets to spitball. He gets to stand by a whiteboard with some post-its and say, no idea is a bad idea, guys. I don't think he does that. But that's the kind of thing he could do. Let's talk about Farage, because let's face it, reform is Nigel Farage. Richard Tice was the leader before, and they were doing fine, but then they had a big press conference, and Nigel Farage came in. He's the man, and he's done something remarkable. He has somehow persuaded the nation that he is anti-establishment, that he's a bit woo, a bit, a rebel. His dad was a stockbroker. He went to Dulwich College, which is like a really fancy college in Dulwich. He did all of those things. He joined the Conservative Party. I think he voted Green at some point, famously. Not famously, I don't know. Was it famous? Did you know that? For all his anti-establishmentness, he is Mr. Establishment. But he does talk about things the way he wants to. He won't be put off particularly. And he really cares. When I was a teacher in Thanet, I invited a few people to come and do a question time at the school I was teaching at. No one got back to me except for Nigel Farage, who got back to me himself with a one line, yeah, let's do it. He was a big, European MEP, and he made the time to come and like a small group of non-voting children. Not many party leaders would do that. I've watched politics quite closely for quite a long time, and that cult of personality, that personal following he's got, yeah, it's amazing. And he got this background of they're competing mostly with the Conservative Party, also with Labour, but most with the Conservative Party, and the Conservative Party were in power during the pandemic. Like I said at the beginning, the policies they put in were deeply unpopular, and then we had Partygate. Partygate has done so much damage to this country. So much damage to our politics. The whole Conservative Party brand got so damaged. That lack of trust, and you enter with someone who appears to be so transparent and so trustworthy and so honest, it's what a lot of people want. Right now, it's what a lot of people want. We've got 4 years till the next election. In that time, they are hoping to build momentum. There's local elections this year, win some seats here and there. There's Welsh elections next year. There's Scotland elections, but they're not going to do that well in Scotland. But in Wales, they could seriously, they could take over the Senate. It's possible. And if they can keep winning elections, they will continue to look like the next main opposition. And then we could go into the 2029, probably, general election with Farage and Starmer as the two candidates to go forward. Or the momentum could shift. Or they win a couple of seats here and there. They don't do that well in the Senate. The Conservative Party sorts themselves out and Reform kind of shuffle off. I feel like if that does happen, Farage won't stick around as leader for long. We don't know. But we do know that right now the conditions are perfect for Reform. And we're seeing that in the polls. Hat off now, because we're talking about the big bill from next week. The big bill is going to be, let me just check the exact name. The big bill is going to be the Border Security, Asylum and Immigration Bill. It's a bill about stopping the boats. We know that the last Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, was quite keen on stopping the boats. He wasn't pro-boat, Rishi Sunak, and this government aren't pro-boat either. It's difficult because while we have lots of nice things and people in the world have no nice things, people are going to want to come to our country legally or illegally. They're prepared to risk things coming here. And unless we can stop climate change and stop war and stop all the other things, people are going to want to come. And famously, we're an island. So the way they're going to come is over the sea. Stopping the boats is really difficult. The Conservative Party had a plan. It was Rwanda. That was their one plan, was Rwanda. And they said that's a deterrent. If you come here, you probably won't get to settle here. We're going to ship you to Rwanda. And if you have a reasonable claim to be somewhere safe, perfect. Rwanda is somewhere safe. If you don't have a valid reason to stay somewhere safe because where the place you already were was safe, we'll send you home. This thing about safety is key because a lot of the Conservatives also say, hang on, if you want to be somewhere safe, that's fine. To come here by boat, you have left somewhere safe. Almost certainly France, which is famously quite a safe country, unless you are some frog's legs, in which case you're not safe at all. Labour say that Rwanda's a terrible idea. It's too small. It was never going to be able to deal with the numbers of people coming in. Conservatives say, no, the point is deterrence, and those numbers don't come. They don't come after because people will know it's a thing, and then they won't come to our country. So that's the argument. Listen, I've got the bill right here because there's a lot in it, and I just wanted to take you through step by step the plan that Labour have. Not going to go too deep into what the Conservatives and other people, listen, no one likes it. Apart from the Labour Party, no one else likes it because that's politics, and this is a really hard issue. First thing they're going to do is they're going to get a border security commander. Ooh, I don't know if that's going to make a difference. But they're going to be a border security commander. And then they're going to set out, so it's going to be an offence to endanger someone's life crossing the channel. Every time a boat is sent over, it's endangering someone's life because those boats are so dangerous. So the gangs that are sending them over, we can charge them because they've done something specifically illegal. Oh, we're going to seize people's phones. When they come over, we're going to seize their mobile phones, and then we can see who they've been talking to, and we can track down the criminal gangs because they've been chatting to them, haven't they? The people on the ground organising it, they're not the big gangsters. They're just the tiny people. We're going to take all the biometric details of all the people that come over, so we know where they are, so they can't disappear into the economy. And it's going to abolish Rwanda. It's going to update the serious crime prevention orders. I'm not sure updating serious crime prevention orders stops there from being serious crime prevention or creates, well done them. And that's that. So something's got to be done. People are dying all the time making that crossing. Something has to be done. The Conservatives' plan didn't necessarily seem to be massively working. The Labour plan, going after the gangs, is going to really bring down boat crossings. I don't think anyone really thinks that this is going to really bring down boat crossings. While people want to travel from there to here, this is going to be a really, really tough problem to solve. On to comments and questions. I had a really good chat this week with Lynn for Hemsworth Green. Lynn has been protesting and getting involved with politics for a long time. Here's what I say. At 13, I was handing out CND leaflets in the town centre on Saturdays, while most of my classmates couldn't name the Prime Minister. 25 years ago, I had to explain to my otherwise intelligent and educated 17-year-old office assistant how the political system works. Now, as a campaigner in my 50s, I meet people on the doorstep who tell me they're not interested in politics and never voted. And then we got talking about how you have to talk to people in a way that interests them. You can't just say, oh, the youth of today, they don't care about politics. Flouncing off is very rarely the answer. And I know because I flounce off a lot, right? This is all after we did a video on political education. Talking to people about politics in a way that people want to hear about politics is the only possible way to do it. We can't complain about how they want things to be done if we want them to do it. You have to start from here. You have to look around and take your cue and know where you're at. If you'd like to get involved in our chats and ask questions, it's the bit, you know how it works. Every week, I'm like, down here. But you know how it works because you're on YouTube already, so do the thing. Finally, we're going to talk about money and the economy and all of that stuff. We're going to be quite quick about it because it turns out that I've banged on about reform for far too long. So I do apologise, lovely viewer, if this was the bit you were most excited for. As if this is the bit you're most excited for. Anyway, Bank of England this week lowered interest rates by a little tiny bit. The Bank of England's job is to control inflation and generally be good about the economy, but it needs to control inflation. And the way interest rates work is if you've got money to spend, but interest rates are high, you're going to put it in a bank and then watch it go ding, 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 ding. Right? With all that beautiful interest rate money that you're going to accumulate. And they want you to do that because then you won't spend the money in the shops and it takes money out of the economy. Also, and this is the less good thing, if you have a mortgage, if you borrow money, if you have a credit card, if you have those things and interest rates are high, you have to pay more money. And that money goes to the bank and that doesn't go into the economy. And the reason you want to stop money going into the economy is that if everyone's buying stuff, if everyone's spending all this sweet, sweet dollar, then things get more expensive. If I get a pay rise, as if I get paid. If I get a pay rise, then that's great because I've suddenly got more money and I can go out and buy stuff. But if everyone gets a pay rise, then the costs that companies have to pay for staff go up, which means they have to put their prices up, which means that actual purchasing power hasn't gone up at all. And if you didn't get a pay rise and the prices go up, suddenly you can't afford stuff. And that's what we said, that's called inflation, right? That's what we saw with the cost of living crisis. Inflation was going up and up and up and up. Now, inflation is one thing, but there's also unemployment. Normally, when employment is full, everyone's got jobs and everyone's got money, that's when inflation happens. When unemployment is high, people don't have so much money, inflation stays naturally low. So you have one thing or the other. Recently, inflation has been caused by energy prices And so the cost of living crisis came about because of a lot, not entirely, but largely because of Putin's illegal war. That meant that inflation went up. But also, it wasn't caused by the employment thing particularly. And now we've got a case where unemployment is rising. It is not too bad. Right now, unemployment is not too bad, but it is rising. And we have the prospect of inflation coming up. And the Bank of England say that inflation is going to go up to nearly 4% again. Unemployment up and inflation up, which means that not only are prices going up, but people will have less money to spend. And let's not forget the number of people who are on benefits, who are out of work for various reasons, is also high. So you've got people out of work because they are long-term sick, and you've got people out of work because the jobs market is slowing down, and you've got prices rising. That's called stagflation, and it's a massive problem. The Bank of England say it's going to happen. They say that inflation will come down again, but they're saying that it's going to come down again by 2027. Now, if you're Keir Starmer, you know the election isn't until after that, so maybe the news isn't too bad. Our economy's in real trouble. They also said we're not growing. They cut in half the amount of growth they thought we'd see over the next year. They had predicted 1.5%. They're now predicting 0.7%. They say that we shrunk or remained exactly like we're nothing towards the last quarter. And we always grow in the final quarter because everyone goes out at Christmas time and spends loads of money. Didn't happen this year. We didn't grow. Maybe we've grown 0.1% in this first quarter. Maybe we might. It's tough out there. It's quite a bleak way to end this show. Listen, it's been lovely having you along. We're going to talk about the Conservatives midweek. Do join us on Wednesday for the Conservatives. And for now, love you. Bye.